No matter what format you play, if you've been into Magic the Gathering for any amount of time, you will know that Wrenn 6 is one of the most pivotal, broken cards that has shaped Magic the Gathering in the modern era. But Wrenn herself is a character that saved the entire multiverse, and I don't know anything about her. Admittedly, I didn't even realize that Wrenn was a woman until I started researching for this video because I was so curious. This is a little bit embarrassing, but hands down I kind of thought she was like Sephiroth, a pale boy with long white hair, but it turns out that she is so much more, and her connection with trees 6, 7, and 8 is one of the most important bonds in Magic's lore, and also leads to some fairly broken Magic cards in the process. The Burning Heart of Wrenn. So let's start this video with a question that sounds very simple on the surface, but actually is a lot spicier as you dig into it. Who and what is Wrenn? Because it turns out that Wrenn isn't just another planeswalker, and she's not even really a complete being in the way that most characters in Magic even are. Wrenn, at her core, is a dryad, a very popular mythological creature popularized by this name in Greco-Roman mythology, and dryads are essentially tree spirits, typically in the form of women who inhabit or coexist among forests and very specific trees. You get it. Tree woman. Now, in Magic, usually dryads are one with a specific tree, but Wrenn is a little bit different, as you can probably tell, because I'm making a video on her and not, I don't know, Dryad of the Elysian Grove, which also is because I really don't like Amulet Titan, a deck where this card often appears. That being said though, for Commander, if you need both mana fixing and ramp, you should absolutely run this card, even though it's a little bit pricey. Now, on her own, Wrenn is fragile, unstable, and temporary. You see, most dryads are born bound to a single tree for their entire existence, living and dying alongside it. But little old Wrenn decided to break that one rule. She's forced to tree hop and constantly is watching her host body die, then getting a new one, hence the whole Wrenn 6, Wrenn 7, or even the meme card Wrenn 1. These are all different trees that she's bonded with over time. Which of course begs the question, why did she do that? What actually happened with this woman?
What happened?
Well, coincidentally, that was the same moment she also awoke her Planeswalker spark. How convenient for us. You see, in her youth, Wrenn absorbed a forest fire to save the land that she was protecting. Where, you ask? No idea. We have actually no idea what plane she's actually from yet. But I do know that she decided to save all of her sisters, and instead of letting the fire destroy everything, she took it inside of herself, permanently altering her own nature. Now, deep in her core, an entire inferno is always ablaze. She's always actively forced to contain that fire inside her, and as a result, it and her spark spread to the tree that she's currently bonded with, burning away at their life force as well. And guys, you're wondering, yes, this is exactly why she's a green and red mana card. Her red mana comes from literally the flames clashing and then harmonizing with her natural green alignment. In a nutshell, Wrenn has become a living contradiction. Fire clears the old, nature regrows the new, and Wrenn exists in the space between these two states. I gotta say, honestly, it's actually a really cool thematic angle covering how forests actually grow and burn and then thrive afterwards in real life, so good on you, Mr. Wizards of the Coast and whoever designed this character and this card. Because of this, Wrenn actually can't just bond with any old tree, it has to be strong enough to be able to withstand her own internal fire, something she can resonate with on a deeper level. Something whose song she can actually hear and answer. Now, me personally, I like to imagine that song is Burn from Hamilton, but it could also be like, I don't know, Crab Rave. Who knows? I don't make the rules, that's Wizard's job, but this does lead us right into her first big lore appearance in the story. Going from 6 to 7. The first big appearance of Wrenn in the lore is on Innistrad, where Wrenn and Six had to part ways. Now, as a player, that's actually good news because the card is crazy broken, but it's also just narratively fun, I think, that her nature, persistent, recursive, and incredibly difficult to fully remove, plays into just how annoying this card really is. But sorry, back to Innistrad. Wrenn made her way back to the forests of Keswick, which were renowned throughout the multiverse as some really good trees. Keswick Wolfrun, right? Maybe it was all the decay elsewhere in Innistrad or the abundance of bones in the soil, but these were some pretty good trees. So Wrenn listened to Six, who by themselves is a really good card, by the way, the tree that carried her for a very long while, who now finally wanted to rest back in his home of Keswick. So Wrenn took him back there to lay his roots deep down and to find her eventually 7. They wandered, and Six and she finally parted ways. She was a little bit torn here because Six wasn't on the verge of death. He could still very much continue on, but he wanted to rest, and she had spent long enough with him to know this and grant him that wish. So they switched, and Six now once again stood alone as his own tree folk, free once again to do what he truly loved, which is mill 3 cards with every attack and then go give retrace to non-land permanents in the graveyard that his roots are touching. That is his real hobby. After departing, Wrenn then heard the song of a young sapling and was searching for it until she stumbled across the time wizard Teferi. A friendship that would bear some great fruit and lead to some truly insane moments during the new Phyrexian invasion. But we aren't there yet. We are at the really weird and cold standoff happening between Wrenn and Teferi right now. Now, for all his years, Teferi was still surprisingly blunt, and he was really confused meeting Wrenn, who simply just was not what he had expected from a dryad. Very tactful Teferi. He was very weirdly fixated on that one tree per person thing. It was really rattling him that she was more casual with the trees that she saw and just, hopping around, finding new partners. During their mini confrontation though, a beast appeared, and Teferi reacted quickly to deal with the threat. But as you might know from my Teferi video, his time magic at this point was completely messed up. It was a very subtle mistake, as small as a grain of sand in an hourglass, but it essentially caused him to be trapped in this new forest maze of time shenanigan thing. I don't know, Tangles is actually a really fun and good story and gives you a lot more to how this interaction actually goes down, but it really doesn't explain fully what went wrong besides Teferi kind of messed up again. But eventually, Wrenn realizes this and helps Teferi understand magic from a more natural angle. Her life is spent bound, or better yet, intertwined with various life magics, and she has a very unique perspective on it that allows her to untangle the mistakes and hiccups. Something that the very methodical Urza-trained Teferi couldn't see himself. So, Wrenn actually showed him her ways, eventually undoing that hiccup and breaking the infinite time loop. They finally were free, but Wrenn was on her last legs now without having been with a host for such a long time. But not all was lost. Turns out that Teferi actually kinda came in clutch in this case. The time magic incident was exactly what the singing sapling had needed to prepare itself to finally host Wrenn. So Wrenn and Teferi wandered, finding now a newly grown, strong, strapping 7. The sapling had heard Wrenn's need and channeled all the time magic it could into itself to rapidly grow so that it could be the perfect host for our planeswalker. It's actually such a touching moment. I kind of wish that I had a tree willing to grow for decades to host me. But alas, it shall not be. And thus, Wrenn and 7 were finally together, but it turns out that 7 may not have even been the most important new friend that Wrenn made. Spending some time together in a time loop, Wrenn had actually time to learn of Teferi's past and how his home of Zhalfir was phased out of time completely. So she promised to one day help him return it after taking 7 to see the multiverse, as the tree, really wanted to spread his toes. Roots you get it. So Teferi and she finally parted ways, but not for too long. Top 5 biggest trees you've ever seen. Number 3, Realmbreaker. It's now time for the Phyrexian War. You know, the craziest thing that ever happened to the entire multiverse. Humanoid machines from New Phyrexia threatened every single plane, trying their best trying really hard to live up to the previous insane multi-set villain, Nicol Bolas. And as you know, I've been covering it a lot lately. Sorry, we're not digging into it too deep today, but if you're curious and this is the first video you see on this channel, first of all, thank you. Why not subscribe? I appreciate it. And you can check out a lot of the other videos. They're all in some way tied to the Phyrexian invasion. You should check Urza or Teferi later on. Now, turns out to LDR that El Schnorren was a pretty good big bad, and a lot of planeswalkers had to team up in order to fight her. Teferi was a leader, and he needed a lot more help though, so he recruited Wrenn into the ranks of those defending Dominaria, the big central hub plane everyone seems to care about from the Phyrexians together. Now, Teferi, you see, had a plan to use the so-called temporal anchor to uncover the secrets to defeating the Phyrexians, but he needed, ironically, I know, time. So, Wrenn acted as a guardian. She teamed up with the druid planeswalker Nissa Ravane and defended Urza's tower, where all the good time stuff was actually going down. After Teferi returned from his little time excursion with answers, he was in recovery, and his new pal Wrenn was by his side, helping to heal him. You know, Wrenn is a really good support. That's the entire vibe. She doesn't take center stage very often, but she's reliable, and that's a really cool dynamic for a planeswalker actually, also with her cards, but I assure you, her time is coming fast. The teamed up planeswalkers created an invasion force and assaulted New Phyrexia itself, but Wrenn wasn't there. Instead, and this is gonna sound very random because it is, she was chilling in a cabin with Chandra, Vivienne, and Liliana because apparently we're not bringing the single most powerful women in the cosmos to fight against El Schnorren. No. Jace decided it was a stealth mission and all these powerhouses didn't fit the bill. Not sure what you're trying to insinuate there, Jace, but we're gonna leave it at that. And as it turns out, that was a big mistake because the invasion team failed and Wrenn's BFF Teferi was lost. So respect women, Jace. It goes a long way. Who knew? I mean, leaving out Chandra and Lily, stupid. So, Wrenn actually decided to strap up when her friend was lost. 7 was locked and loaded. This support was going on the offensive. Wrenn's time to shine. Now, alongside Chandra, she travels to New Phyrexia, a plane that stands in direct opposition to pretty much everything that she represents. The tree now invaded a plane of unnatural machines, devoid of life, and it was admittedly really, really unsettling. But what I've conveniently failed to tell you up until this point is what's at the center of New Phyrexia, deep in its core, and enabling the biomechanical army to invade the multiverse. It's a big tree, a Realmbreaker. And this is why Wrenn is so pivotal, of course, to the secondary invasion of New Phyrexia, because, as you can imagine, she has a plan. Wrenn needs to reach Realmbreaker, the corrupted world tree, and bond with it. Once she's able to do that, she'll guide him to not destroy Dominaria, but instead somewhere else. And then everyone will destroy El Schnorren, and the multiverse will be saved. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. But when Wrenn first attempts to do this, it actually fails. Realmbreaker doesn't respond the way that her other previous trees have. It doesn't sing because it's twisted, broken, and in a lot of pain. And so before she can push any further, she's confronted by Nissa, now completed, aka taken over by Phyrexians, tortured and turned into a mechanical, super gory horror machine thing, and was overwhelmingly powerful at this point. And in that clash, 7 is destroyed, and Wrenn is left nearly torn apart. As you can see, it's easily one of the lowest points in her entire story because the very thing that defines her is connection. But now it's stripped away from Nyssa, from Seven, not to mention that Seven didn't deserve this. Yo, he was the GOAT. R.I.P. man, Seven. We'll never forget you. You did really well. Just a little poor sapling who tried to help out. Okay, let's move on. I'm gonna tear up thinking about a tree now. Luckily, Wrenn's story has never been, of course, about winning alone. Through the help of some others, especially Chandra, the power women, she's given one more chance. The squad of Chandra, Koth, and the remaining Mirrans fighting for their lost homeworld carried the legless Wrenn to the tree for another chance at the merger. And this time, instead of forcing a connection, she actually tries listening more deeply. And beneath Realmbreaker's corruption, she finds a small living piece, the sapling at this corrupted core, and bonds with it. Thus, a new duo is born. Realmbreaker was no more. He is now 8. Wrenn, and 8 to be exact. Wrenn was never attached to just a single tree, that's her whole thing, but now it's just so much more than that. She's now connected to the multiverse itself through 8, as the Realmbreaker was a duplicate seed of the World Tree. And out there, she finds who? Teferi, and it's time for her to finally fulfill that big promise of saving Zhalfir. Using Realmbreaker, she now swaps Zhalfir and New Phyrexia, reshaping reality itself and cutting off Phyrexia's reach. Zhalfir was disconnected from the multiverse, lost in its own sub-time bubble thing, something that Realmbreaker could actually access. In other words, it's an act that saves everything, but it also, as everything big and good, comes at a cost. The fire within her, the same force that allowed her to grow and change, ultimately consumed her, and Wrenn was no more. Her final act saved the multiverse, ensuring that all trees could still be trees, the thing that she loved the most. The seeds of change. So, Wrenn's story seems to end in sacrifice, but it doesn't truly end. When Teferi finally returns, he finds something small and very easily overlooked, a tiny acorn. Hands down, in all honesty, it's actually such a beautiful moment because Wrenn was never just an individual, she was a cycle. And cycles don't simply stop. She died in a great inferno, but that of course paved the way for a new reality, and her cycle through this acorn continued. Oh, and one of my favorite new bits of lore I just uncovered is that after her great sacrifice, the Pyrewood Gearhulk was made in her honor. That's just such a cool little bit of continued lore for her, and now we wait eagerly to see how the tree born from this acorn will actually sprout, or what's gonna happen next with Realmbreaker. My personal big guess is that this will tie into the next act of Teferi's story if it continues, and if you want to be caught up for that, you should check out this video here where I break down Teferi's story, which is very surprisingly tragic. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. If this is the second, third, or even fourth video you've watched of the channel and you really haven't bothered yet to subscribe, I know it's annoying, but it makes a really big difference and just is a great sign for me that I should keep making these videos because they're so fun to make. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.